Hi, I'm Mian. Years ago, my sister left me in the middle of the woods, on purpose, just to see if I'd survive the night. She called it a challenge, but the real test didn't end when I made it out. It started when I got home, and no one believed me. Not my mom, not my dad, and certainly not her. They said it was just a misunderstanding. But then came the lies. The fake reunion video, the lawsuit, the silence that hurt worse than the forest ever did. Why would your own family try to erase you, and then punish you for remembering? This story? It gets worse before it gets better. Charlene had that smirk on her face again, the one she wore every time she thought she had the upper hand. "Let's do something different this weekend," she said, dangling the car keys like a prize. "Just the two of us. No phones, no distractions, a survival challenge, like old school bonding." I should have known better. After what happened online, when I exposed her for stealing content from a smaller creator, things had been icy between us. But I still wanted to believe she meant it when she said, "Let's clear the air." So I said yes. We left early Saturday morning. The forest was dense, remote. I thought it was weird she knew the spot without checking a map. Even weirder when she asked me to hand over my flip phone. "For safety," she claimed. "Just in case one of us gets tempted to bail." She carried the heavier pack. Mine felt strangely light, but I brushed it off. Maybe she was trying to be nice. Maybe this was real. When we set up camp, I noticed there were no trail markers nearby. Just trees, endless trees. "This spot's perfect," Charlene said. "Secluded, peaceful, honest." That last word stuck in my throat. The sun was dropping behind the ridge when we sat for dinner. Canned beans, crackers, warm soda. I tried to relax, but something in her eyes made me tense. Out of nowhere, she dropped her fork. "You had no right to humiliate me online." I blinked. "Humiliate?" I told the truth. "You always play victim, Mian," she snapped. "Guess what? Life isn't fair. Grow up." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The anger in her voice said everything. She stood up fast. "I need to cool off," she muttered, and disappeared into the trees. I waited. 10 minutes, 20. Then I checked my bag. Flashlight, gone. Snacks, gone. Phone, dead. I searched around, but she had taken her pack and vanished. I started walking in a wide circle, calling her name. Nothing. Just the echo of my own voice bouncing back at me. That's when I saw it. A small camcorder on the base of a tree, light blinking red. I picked it up, pressed play. There she was, grinning into the lens. She thinks this is bonding. Let's see if she survives one night. My stomach turned. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a prank. She left me. On purpose. I ran until I couldn't anymore. The forest swallowed the last light of day. Coyotes howled somewhere in the distance, and the cold crept in through the sleeves of my hoodie. I found a hollow tree, barely wide enough to curl into. My limbs trembled. Not from fear. Not entirely. It was the betrayal that shook me. I wrapped my arms around my knees and whispered over and over, "I will make it to morning. I will make it to morning." When the sun finally broke through the trees, I didn't feel relief, just raw, dry exhaustion. My lips were cracked. My legs were stiff from curling inside that hollow tree all night. But I was alive. I kept whispering that part, like it would mean something to someone when I told them. I followed the faint sounds of a road, walking for hours. My body ached. I had no food, no water, just dirt in my hair and betrayal lodged deep in my chest. Eventually, a park ranger in an old truck pulled over. His brow furrowed as he looked me over. "You alone out here, sweetheart?" I nodded. Voice cracked. "My sister left me." He didn't press for details, just handed me a bottle of water and drove me to a local police station. I borrowed a phone, called home. Mom answered. Her voice was calm. Too calm. "We thought you'd be home by now," she said. No apology, not even concern. "I need a ride," I whispered. "Well, your father's busy with the store," she replied. "You'll have to figure it out." The line went dead. I took the city bus, then another, until I reached the house. My knees wobbled from the effort. The front door was unlocked. Charlene was on the couch, flipping through TV channels like she hadn't just abandoned her 15-year-old sister in the middle of a forest. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. Mom looked up from the kitchen sink, drying a mug. Don't slam the door, and you should be thankful you're okay. Some girls don't come back at all. I stood frozen. You knew she left me. She was upset, Mom said, her tone flat. You embarrassed her online. Maybe next time you'll think twice before making things public. She left me in the woods, I snapped, louder this time. On purpose. That's not normal. Mom sighed like I was being dramatic. Stop acting like a victim all the time, Mion. We all make mistakes. I turned to Charlene. You filmed it. She finally looked up, smirking. You made it out, didn't you? That's the point. Dad came in during dinner, said nothing when I barely touched my food. We sat there, chewing in silence like it was just any Sunday night. Mom passed the mashed potatoes. Charlene talked about a new cheer sponsor. Nobody mentioned the woods. I cleared my throat. You left me. Charlene shrugged. And you survived. That's the story. I didn't respond, not because I agreed, but because I knew no one here wanted the truth. They just wanted peace. Their version of it. That night I packed a bag. Just essentials. A hoodie, my journal, $64 from my sock drawer. I found a photo of me and Aunt Anita, back when things felt real. She was the only adult who ever made me feel safe. By morning I was gone. No door slam, no goodbye. I left a single note on my pillow. I survived, but I won't survive here. I hadn't thought about Charlene in years. Not really. Not the real her. The one who smiled into a camera before leaving me to sleep beside coyotes and silence. I'd built a life far from all of that. Seattle wasn't just distance. It was insulation. Peace. That morning, I was in the middle of reviewing a sponsorship proposal when Lorna barged in without knocking, something she never did. Her face was pale, phone shaking in her hand. You need to see this, she said, already tapping the screen. A video played, smooth transitions, soothing piano music, title, Sisters Reunited After Years of Silence. There I was, or someone who looked a lot like me, hugging Charlene on a fake forest trail. Edited childhood photos faded in and out. A voiceover, AI-generated, said, Despite their rocky past, they chose love. A quote floated on screen. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's strength. I didn't remember filming that because I never had. Is this real? Lorna asked quietly. No, I said, voice flat. I haven't seen her since I was 15. Within minutes, our company's socials were flooded. Such a beautiful story. So glad they found their way back. Even reporters were reaching out for comment. I checked my own inbox. DMs from strangers, fake congratulations, podcast invites. You know what this is? I said to Lorna, jaw tight. She's cashing in. The video was traced to Charlene's new account. She had rebranded herself as a healing coach, the kind that sells webinars and motivational mugs. I found a podcast clip. Charlene, all staged sincerity. Sometimes families break, but real love always wins. She knew exactly what she was doing, twisting the truth into something cute, marketable. My fingers trembled, not from weakness, but from the pressure of old wounds tearing open. Still, I didn't rant. I didn't scream. Instead, I posted a photo from 2005, the one I never showed anyone. A 15-year-old girl, dirt on her face, curled inside a hollow tree. Caption, Some of us weren't playing a game. Some of us were just trying to live. The comments exploded. Some people praised me for finally speaking out. Others said I was bitter, unforgiving. Let it go, they typed, fingers never having felt frostbite fear. But I wasn't trying to win them over. I wasn't here for applause. I just wanted the lies to stop. By the end of that week, my inbox looked like a war zone. Screenshots, threads, posts with thousands of shares, people I didn't know accusing me of being a fraud. Mion Holloway fabricated her trauma for sympathy. She embezzled money from her family and ran off. Classic overreactor. Anything for attention. Lorna stormed into my office just as I was reading another comment calling me unhinged but marketable. We're bleeding followers, she said, jaw tight. 3 sponsors have paused their contracts, and look, she shoved her phone at me. An influencer I vaguely recognized was reacting to a new video. Charlene again, softly lit, holding a mug, speaking about resilience and grace. The background was too perfect. She's faking forgiveness while feeding this chaos, I muttered. Lorna nodded. And people are buying it. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. My pulse was already climbing. That evening, we sat in my apartment with our laptops side by side, digging. Lorna traced patterns in the smear posts. Same phrasing, same metadata. We brought in Alton, my attorney. He scrolled in silence, then looked up. These posts are being funneled through a boutique PR firm out of LA. Small team. But they used to manage a wellness influencer, Charlene. So this wasn't just damage. It was strategy. She was using paid campaigns to rewrite the past, branding herself a peacemaker while framing me as a bitter ghost. I didn't cry. I filmed. It wasn't high production. Just me in my living room. Simple lighting. One take. If I made it up, I said, eyes steady, I wouldn't have changed my name. I wouldn't have moved 3,000 miles away. I wouldn't have kept the camcorder she left recording at the base of that tree. I didn't blame. I didn't name, but I didn't need to. The video spread fast. The next night, my phone lit up with a contact I hadn't seen in years. Mom. I let it ring, then picked up. This is not how families solve things, she said. No hello. I waited a beat. This is how truth survives when no one else defends it. There was a pause, not long enough to be regret. Then a click. No goodbye. The letter arrived in a plain white envelope, tucked among my usual stack of reports and coffee-stained mailers. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Slanted, rigid, controlled. Mian, can we talk, just us, before things get worse? Mom. Lorna read it over my shoulder and shook her head. She's not asking for you. She's asking for quiet. I nodded but said nothing. I didn't agree to meet her for her sake. I did it for mine. 2 days later, I sat across from her at a quiet cafe downtown. The place smelled like cinnamon and overbrewed espresso. Jolene arrived 10 minutes late, dressed like she was going to church, pearls, pressed coat, the works. She smiled too much. You look tired, she said, folding her napkin like it mattered. You look the same, I replied. Her smile cracked for a second before she leaned in. You're making us look like monsters. You're doing that all on your own. She sighed, fingers clenching her cup. Charlene's changed, Mian. We all make mistakes. But dragging the family through the mud, what does that solve? You don't want healing, I said. You want silence. She dropped the performance for a second. You're my daughter, and families don't destroy each other in public. I kept my voice level. You didn't have to hurt me to protect her. You just had to not pretend it didn't happen. I had no choice, she said, eyes narrowing. No, you had every choice, I replied, voice low, and now so do I. I stood slowly, pulled a folded check from my purse, and placed it next to her coffee. That's for my drink, and for the 15 years you pretended none of it mattered. Her mouth opened, but I was already walking away. Outside, I inhaled the cool air like it might clear something heavy from my chest. The street noise, the clinking dishes behind me, all felt far off. Then my phone buzzed. Private message. NY press inquiry. Would you like to respond to Charlene's legal team? I didn't hesitate. I texted Alton. Get ready. I think they're going to make this official. A week passed. I thought they might pull back. That maybe, after everything, someone in that house would finally decide they'd done enough. They didn't. The courier arrived just before noon. Lorna intercepted the envelope, scanned the label, then looked up at me with a tight expression. Holloway and Associates, Legal Services, she read aloud. I didn't move, just nodded once. Bring it in. The envelope was thick, too thick. I opened it slowly, knowing exactly what was inside before I saw a single word. Defamation, slander, emotional distress, damage to their public image, filed officially by Charlene Holloway and Jolene Holloway. My mother, they were suing me. Lorna stood silently, eyes flicking to the paperwork. They really did it. They really did. That afternoon, I sat across from Alton in his firm's conference room. He flipped through the lawsuit with sharp, clean fingers, lips pressed into a flat line. They're not suing for truth, he said after a beat. They're suing for silence. This is about control, not court. Can they win? I asked. Not a real victory? But they can drag it out, bleed you dry in discovery, create enough public noise to make people doubt you. Again. I leaned back in my chair, jaw locked. So we hit back, quietly, effectively. He nodded. Then let's begin. Back at my office, I canceled 2 meetings, wrote an internal email to the board. This is personal, not professional. 9:15 remains solid. We are not backing down. Then I opened my public account and typed, "You don't get to hurt someone and then sue them for remembering it." It spread faster than I expected. Comments rolled in. People who doubted me began to ask harder questions. Some who'd stayed silent started to speak. And then, that night, a message landed in my inbox. No subject, no pleasantries, just a single line from a name I hadn't seen in years. One of Charlene's former friends. "I have screenshots. I've stayed quiet long enough." I typed one word in response. Send. I didn't sleep much after that message. The next morning, I was in early. Lorna was already at her desk with coffee and her laptop open. I dropped the old shoebox on the counter between us. "It's in here," I said. She looked at the dusty label. Camcorder, 2005, her brow raised. "You really kept it all these years?" "Didn't plan to. I just couldn't throw it away." We spent hours digging through old tapes and adapters. When we finally got the footage transferred, we watched in silence. The video was grainy, but the sound was crisp. There she was, Charlene, standing in front of the tent, grinning into the lens like she was hosting a prank show. "She thinks we're bonding. Let's see if she survives the night." Then she laughed, that same laugh I hadn't heard in person in 2 decades, and walked out of frame. I felt no tears, just a stillness I hadn't known in years. "We're posting this," I said. "No edits, no music, no voiceovers, just truth." We uploaded the clip. At the end, I added a black screen with one sentence. "I never asked to be a story, but now you get the truth." By the time I refreshed, it had 80,000 views. 3 hours later, 2.4 million. The comments were louder than anything I could have said myself. Then came the second hit. Alton called. "Check your inbox. We got the contract." Charlene's agreement with the media agency, signed, dated, initialed, and there, buried in the fine print under Clause 4.3, influencer shall produce 3 high-engagement family conflict posts per quarter. Viral preference, betrayal, reunion, regret. I sent it to every major legal reporter in the city with no commentary, just the document. By sunset, half her podcast sponsors had pulled out. A clip of me, the one from earlier in the woods saying, "Some of us weren't playing a game," was being used in a national mental health campaign. Lorna leaned in with a small smile. "They're running scared." I nodded, calm as glass. "Good. Let them." It was nearly midnight when my voicemail blinked. I played it without thinking. "Mion, it's your dad." His voice sounded older, thinner somehow. "I saw the tape. I knew about that night. I just didn't think it would get this far." He paused, like he was waiting for me to forgive him right there. "It was a mistake, a bad one, but we're still family." I didn't call back. Instead, I sat out on the balcony, Seattle lights blinking beneath me. The weight of that call didn't surprise me. It just confirmed what I'd always suspected. He knew. He just chose to look away, like they all did. By the next morning, headlines took over my feed. "Fake forgiveness scheme exposed." "Video confirms sister's abandonment." Charlene vanished offline. Her podcast? Gone. Jolene? Silent. No new emails, no new guilt-laced messages. It was as if they'd all been swallowed by the truth. I accepted a podcast invite, not for revenge, but to draw a line. "I'm not here to cancel anyone," I said into the mic. "I'm here because silence almost buried me, and I won't let it bury someone else." Afterward, Lorna and I sat outside my place. She handed me tea without asking. "Feel better now that the world knows?" I thought about it. It feels like dropping a chain. I'm not healed, but I'm free. She nodded, watching the skyline. "You don't hate them, do you?" "No," I said quietly, "but I'll never trust them again." A few days later, I drove past the old house. The porch looked smaller. The swing I used to hide under? Gone. A real estate sign creaked in the breeze. "For sale, by owner." I didn't stop. Didn't need to. I just looked once more and kept driving until the road gave way to open sky. I didn't cry. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt done. Lorna walked into my office with her phone in one hand and a smirk she couldn't hide. "You're gonna want to see this." She handed me the screen. A breaking news headline from a national site: Charlene's ex-boyfriend arrested in online smear campaign. Charges: cyber defamation, targeted harassment, digital extortion. Below the fold, a quote from his confession: "She never told me to stop. She just let me keep going." I set the phone down and let the weight of it pass through me. It wasn't satisfying, not in the way revenge movies paint it, but it was just. Later that night, I stood on my rooftop. The city below buzzed quietly. I opened my camera and took a photo of a lone pine silhouetted against the sky. I uploaded it with a caption: "I was left in the woods once, but I built something there. I built me." Thousands of notifications followed. Hearts, comments, messages. I didn't read them. I turned them off. For the first time, I didn't need the noise. My phone buzzed again. "Aunt Anita. Dinner this weekend? Your aunt misses you. Mexican or Italian?" I smiled at the screen. "Mexican, extra margaritas." Not everything was broken. Some pieces were still mine. Some were still warm. Before bed, I scrolled through my contact list. Found my parents' numbers. Paused, then blocked both. No dramatics, no ceremony. Just a decision made in quiet air. I stepped outside again, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders, and let the night hold me. No anger, no ache, just space, just sky, just me, still standing. You don't owe your pain to anyone, not even the people who caused it. Sometimes walking away isn't about weakness. It's how you stay alive. Some people think closure comes with an apology, but I've learned that sometimes healing means accepting that the apology may never come, and still choosing to live anyway. I used to believe family meant protection, that being blood meant being safe. But what I've learned is this: family isn't who shares your last name. It's who shows up when it matters, who sees your pain and doesn't turn away. So if you've ever been left behind, silenced, or gaslit by the very people who were supposed to love you most, I want you to know this: you are not crazy, you are not too much, you are not alone. I survived the woods, not just the trees and the cold, but the years of silence that followed. And I built a life I'm proud of, one choice at a time. Now I'm curious. What's your story? Have you ever walked away from something that nearly broke you? Or maybe, are you still in the middle of your own forest, trying to find the way out? If this story spoke to you, even just a little, drop a 1 inch in the comments, or let me know where in the world you're watching from. And if it didn't hit home for you, that's okay too. Tell me why. Tell me what you'd like to see more of. I'm listening. If you're still here, thank you. And if you want more stories like this, real, raw, and full of truth, hit that subscribe button